Hello and welcome to Skills Level 3 for walking your Newfoundland dog. At this point, we can assume that things are way off, your dog is over threshold, and the trigger is more intense. What do you do in this moment? Fire drills. Fire drills were a pivotal learning moment for me with my reactive Newfoundland dog. So, what are the components of a fire drill? Practice. Fire drills, as the name would suggest, should be practiced before you actually need them. So, if you don't practice them, they won't work. That's really what a drill is, right? Component two would be to panic. You want to practice your fire drill in the way in which you'll be in the moment. This is a common mistake that people make. They practice their fire drill all calm, cool, and collected, and then in the moment, when they're all panicked, the dog notices the change and starts scanning the horizon for the trigger. But if you practice the fire drill in the same tone of voice and movement, going, okay, okay, let's go, oh no, or whatever it is, then in the moment, the dog will be like, boy who cried wolf. Yeah, yeah, I don't believe you. There's nothing in the environment that has changed. So you'll learn two of these, tuck and scatter. Tuck behind a car or trash can, scatter some treats using the stir finger from Simone Mueller's program. Wrap and feed. Wrap the leash around a pole or tree and feed the dog very slowly. So for duck and scatter, you're going to move quickly to a car or trash can or whatever to obscure the dog's vision of the trigger. Duck low, move your center of gravity down. Put your hand on their harness, so your center of gravity meets theirs, and do this stir motion with your pointer finger so the dog gets sniffing on the ground. Then scatter some treats on the ground and repeat until the trigger is gone. Why would you do the stir finger on the ground before you scatter the treats? Well, sometimes in a panicked moment, it's hard to get treats out of your treat pouch. But if your dog is used to this hand motion on the ground, meaning start snuffling for treats, then their head will be on the ground, not scanning the horizon for the trigger while you struggle to get the treats out. Here is an example of that stir finger. And I recommend doing this at home whenever your dog has left behind accidentally a treat on the floor and you're trying to show them that it's there. Many people will tap their toe next to it. I recommend doing this hand motion so that it will become the cue for looking for or snuffling around for a treat. This is an example of practicing a harness grab. It is crucial to practice harness grabs not in stressful moments. Grabbing onto a dog's harness can be a significant bite risk. I will say that one more time. Grabbing onto a dog in a tense moment is a significant bite risk. But if you desensitize the dog to this and practice it and reward them, so you're counter conditioning them to grabbing onto their harness, then in the moment, they won't panic and you'll be able to hold on to them a little better. So you really should be desensitizing your dog to harness grabbing. What are the benefits of this fire drill? Sniffing is a natural signal for dogs that they would like to be left alone, and it is also a calming tool for the dog doing it. So your dog will be giving off a I'm not threatening, I just want to be left alone signal while also calming themselves down. Here is a video of me doing this fire drill. I recommend
So here I'm going to
practicing this 2 or 3 times out on your walk before you actually need it. So I'm doing that stir finger, putting treats on the ground, so he's snuffling, and we would wait until the trigger passed. Sorry about that, some technical difficulty. Okay, so fire drill number 2, you will be moving quickly to a pole or tree, wrapping the leash around the pole or tree, crossing it over itself, Moving slowly. You're going to start moving like you're going through molasses at this point. Talk to your dog calmly and continuously feed them like you're a Pez toy, just giving them treat after treat in this slow manner. So, what are the benefits of this fire drill? Moving slowly models the behavior you want to see in your dog of calmness, and it also helps you calm down. By wrapping the leash around the tree absorbs the majority of the shock and friction if the dog tries to bolt. This is why you should be using a bungee leash and harness that the dog is safe as well. So you're going to wrap the leash around, cross it over, and grip it. Here's an example of me doing this fire drill with my dog. Again, I recommend practicing it when you don't need it in the same style and manner as you will be in the moment. You can see I start moving slow, like I'm moving through molasses, keeping the dog calm and continuously feeding them. Okay, some of you might be thinking, what do I do if distraction hits and I'm nowhere near a car or tree? Especially if you have a very difficult dog who jumps through thresholds very quickly. If your dog goes from under threshold to over threshold while just kind of scooting straight through at threshold, then you might have a dog who's slightly more difficult and needs these fire drills a little more often. Simone Mueller, in her course on predation, she segments up walking routes into distinct islands. I refer to these as deserts versus oases. What do I mean by this? Deserts are areas like in this picture where you can see that it would be a much further distance to go before I could use a fire drill. There's no cars here, there's no trees, there's no poles. Whereas an oasis is in an area where it would be much easier to use a fire drill. On the left-hand side, you can see there's a lot of trees and poles. On the right-hand side, you can see there's a lot of cars to duck behind. This picture right here shows two different sides of a road. On the left, you can see that is a desert. There's no poles or trees and there's no cars. On the right, that's an oasis. There's cars there and there's also trees and poles. If you have a choice between these two sidewalks, you should pick the one on the right-hand side. So if you imagine your typical walking route, I want you to start imagining certain segments of it as deserts. What do you do in the desert? You should move through quickly, shoulders back, head high, eyes straight ahead, fast pace, shorten the leash, and you're going like a snowbird going from New York to Florida. You're going straight shot, straight through. Other parts of your walk you're going to view as an oasis. And in these areas, you can let your dog sniff and explore. Slow down, meander around, move back and forth, hang out in these areas. So if this was someone's typical walking route, this is the pattern of walking I would expect to see. When they're in the desert areas, they are beelining straight through, shooting straight through. When they're in the oasis areas, they're meandering around and really relaxing and taking their time. Fire drills are also best used preemptively. If you see a dog approaching straight ahead and you know your dog moves through thresholds quickly, that is the time to get behind a car or wrap the leash around a tree. All right, let's address the elephant in the room. So many people are thinking now, I've watched this all sounds like a lot of work. Why don't I just use insert walking tool here? The reality is I wasn't going to discuss this, but before I finished this presentation, I checked through most of the popular Facebook groups and training accounts for Newfoundlands. And these were the comments I saw under posts about leash manners. Prong collar, gentle leader, prong collar, gentle leader, gentle leader, gentle leader, prong collar. So, an overwhelming amount of the advice was just use a prong, with a gentle leader coming in at a close second. So, why am I telling you to put in all this work if there is a tool that can do the work for you? Let's talk about some myths about prongs. Myth number one, prongs use less pressure. This is false. Prongs use significantly more pressure than a flat collar and certainly more pressure than a harness. That's because less surface area equals more pressure. That's a fact of physics. I didn't make that up. Number two would be that prongs evenly distribute force. This is so false, and yet it is so popular on the internet that you will read this. It is wrong. Prongs are made up of levers, not springs, and there is no damping constant. The force is distributed the same way as a flat collar, with the majority hitting the front. The reality is that if any manufacturer figures out how to mechanically and evenly distribute pressure from a single point of force, I promise you they would make billions because we humans have not figured that out yet. That's why NFL helmets and bulletproof vests still have billions of dollars of research going into them. And by the way, if you think of the materials those are made of, they're not made of metal, they're made of soft, squishy materials on the inside where it would contact our head or our chest. 3 would be that a prong imitates a mother correcting her puppies. I spoke with 2 separate breeders about this, and both of them said the same thing, that of the many Newfoundland litters they have had, they have never seen a mother dog bite their puppies. This was stated vehemently and again and again. In fact, both of them said that if they saw a mother dog bite their puppy, they would immediately remove the puppies from that dog, assuming there is some sort of major issue happening. Mother dogs are more patient than we humans are, and they often just walk away. They will occasionally give a vocal correction, but they will never put their teeth on their puppies. So the truth about prongs, they do work. I won't deny that punishment is effective, but it is not more or less effective than positive reinforcement. This has been proven. And punishment has an added risk for the dog of becoming fearful or reactive. Those who utilize punishment like to think of it as a chisel or a scalpel, where you can chisel away at one particular behavior. But punishment is more like tear gas. You can aim it at one thing, but it will dissipate and taint everything in its surroundings. In dog training circles, we would say this as you cannot fully separate classical and operant conditioning. To put it simply, I cannot recommend prongs, and no respected animal welfare organization recommends them either. These are 2 statements from the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior and the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants, both of them saying to steer clear of prong collars. They're also illegal in many countries and regions, which should tell you something. Sweden, Quebec, New Zealand, Spain, Austria, France, Switzerland, Germany, and Victoria, Australia, and many more being added to that list. So many people think, okay, I don't like prongs either. How about a gentle leader? Well, gentle leaders must be conditioned. You should be conditioning your dog for a gentle leader up to 3 weeks. And at that point, you could have just leash trained them. They cannot be used with long leashes. A lot of force is exerted by a Newfoundland dog bolting. And for this reason, a dog above 80 pounds, it's not recommended to use a leash longer than 3 feet with a head collar on. Dogs can break their nose with just a few pounds of pressure. Most head collars are also aversive. Many people are drawn to gentle leaders because they don't want to use an aversive tool. Many head collars now cinch around the dog's nose, which makes them no less aversive than other training tools such as a prong. Here's a video of what the newer head collars tend to look like, where they cinch right around the dog's nose, which is very painful. And here is a video, or here is an example of what the older models look like, which are a little harder to find now, where it does not cinch. Okay, and a dog's nose is full of nerves. Look at this picture on the left. You can see that dogs have an incredible amount of capillaries, nerves, and arteries in their nose. They are incredibly sensitive to pain there. If you absolutely feel you need one, then please double clip it to a more humane walking tool like a harness. The head collar should be a fail-safe only if the dog bolts. And if the dog bolted, go home and revisit what you did wrong or missed for that to happen. Did you know that PAT, or the public access test for service dogs, no longer allows gentle leaders during the exam and no longer lists them in the humane walking tools category? So, not such a simple solution after all. Prongs and gentle leaders are not just the go to for teaching your dog leash manners. Why didn't I mention e-collars? Well, because they're not permitted for NNR dogs via the NNR contract at all. Okay, you have reached the end of the Walking Your Newfoundland Dog presentation. I do have some bonus content based on questions you submitted to me for your particular dogs. These topics on the left here are what will be included: dogs who bite the leash, long lead considerations, not food motivated predation, reactivity, and an off leash dog approaching. You can find the link for that video below. And thank you so much for choosing adoption, and thank you for being a part of the NNR family. Have a great day and enjoy walking your dog.